Look at this chart. 90% of America's new job growth and innovation industries happened in just 5 cities over a 10-year period. In just the last year, Silicon Valley's companies added the entire GDP of Illinois and Hong Kong combined to their market caps, which has allowed Silicon Valley to give us hard-hitting innovations like this one.
San Francisco, they created a map and an app to track poo called Snapcrap. 28,000 markers. Except no, but hold on. That's not dog poo. It's human poo.
Yeah, when people in San Francisco get an ad for a hot singles in their area, it's talking about something totally different. This video is about inequality, but not income inequality or wealth inequality or racial inequality or even opportunity inequality. There's one type of inequality that we never talk about, but it's equally as important. It's the same reason why the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange and Wall Street, also in New York City, makes New York City home to the largest stock exchanges in the world, larger than the next 18 stock exchanges combined. San Francisco and New York are world leaders in technology and finance, and there's something about these cities that we need to replicate across the country so we can spread this prosperity more evenly. So what is location inequality? Why does it exist? And how can we solve it? I'm Shreyas, and this is Abraham Lincoln?
Oh, yes, it is I have come back alive.
Oh my God, it's such an ladies and gentlemen, former President Abraham Lincoln.
Now, Shreyas, I have come back for one reason and one reason alone. Please tell me that the U.S. kept its promise to ban Broadway plays.
What?
Oh my God, I fucking hate plays. Mary would bring me to so many plays. I eventually just paid John to pop me in the back of the head at one.
Why, you paid that guy to do, why did you do that?
Because I hate plays, so they would be banned. Please tell me that that is my defining legacy.
No, your legacy is far more great and noble than that. I mean, after you banned the slaves, you kicked off a slow but steady revolution towards racial equality. I mean, when I was 7 years old, this country elected its first African-American president. It was inspired.
Wait, they let one of them become president?
What you say, that you only meant well, 'cause you did, what you say, that it's all for the best to come. What you say, that you only meant well, 'cause you did, what you say, that what you say, that you only, what you say, what you say, what you say, what you say.
Kind of a cool fun fact is that you can look up any state or country and the term Silicon Valley or Wall Street, and you'll find an attempt where they spent billions, if not trillions of dollars sometimes, to build the next great global technology or finance hub in an attempt to dethrone the originals. And for some reason, all those attempts have failed. And this is despite the fact that New York and Silicon Valley are some of the highest tax places in the world, least affordable places to live, and people are constantly predicting their demise. But these predictions are based on a misunderstanding, a worse misunderstanding than when my art school friend said that he wanted to shoot me nude. I asked what camera he wants to use, and he said, camera? So is there some kind of playbook that we can use to replicate the success of New York and Silicon Valley elsewhere? Or is there something that makes New York and Silicon Valley irreplaceable? Is it something that we can point to, or is there just something in the water? Weirdly enough, it might be the second. One of the high-level phenomena that cause location inequality is this thing called clustering. And we're gonna go a lot deeper than that, but clustering is worth talking about for a second. Clustering is a very basic economic phenomenon. If there's already a place that has the talent pool you need and the customers you wanna serve, then you're gonna go there to start your company. And just like how you're going there, tons of others are gonna follow, creating a virtuous cycle. This has created countless economic hubs like New York for finance, Silicon Valley for technology, Boston for biotech, 33rd Street for Korean food, and Miami for whatever this type of person is. It's the same reason why a single strip mall will have multiple fast food competitors, or why a single block will have multiple gas stations, or why that one wing in your high school has all of your wannabe drug dealers. No, I'm not gonna buy oregano from you again. I already fell for that trick 6 times. The idea that clustering could drive location inequality isn't new. The question I want to investigate goes even deeper. What are the attributes that makes a location right for a super cluster like New York or Silicon Valley to start there in the first place? And why is it that even when other governments spend billions or trillions of dollars to replicate it, they oftentimes fail? It's kind of funny because there's no grand vision 200 years ago to build a Wall Street on Manhattan or a tech hub in the Bay Area. It just kind of happened by accident. But as far as accidents go, it's definitely one of our better ones, unlike the time I became the director of the FBI.
Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
I don't know, but I'm going to find out. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't find out and release everything to the American public. The names, the list,
Right.
the videos, everything. We're going to get to the bottom of it.
Elon and Trump seem to be in a bit of a spat, Joe. You want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ. Does he know that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files?
The what files?
Okay, before someone calls it out, it is worth mentioning that New York State and California did do a lot of purposeful things to ensure their economic edge. For example, New York built the Erie Canal to make New York City an indispensable trading port, while California cultivated state-of-the-art colleges like Stanford and UC Berkeley in the Bay Area. But let me counter by pointing out that countless other places have countless invaluable assets that should make them superclusters. For example, Boston has the world's best universities. It had a huge head start by being America's first major trading port. And it recently just invested $22 billion to expand a state-of-the-art neighborhood called Seaport to attract the world's best companies and people. Boston could have been America's Silicon Valley, but it wasn't, making it America's biggest disappointment since the time I was on The Bachelor.
Shreyas, you can give a rose to any of these 12 lucky ladies, and they're gone.
So I want to understand what makes San Francisco different than Boston. And if you grew up in the Boston area like I did, then you know one thing about San Francisco, and is that they should rename their football team to the San Francisco 69ers, because that'll better explain whatever the heck is going on over there. Hey, how you doing? But thankfully, Silicon Valley historian Michael S. Malone has a better answer for us. He says that San Francisco is just more risk-taking than Boston. Except I don't fuck with that answer at all, Michael S. Malone. I want an even better answer. Why does San Francisco have this risk-taking culture in the first place? Is there just something in the water that makes Steve Jobs sell his Volkswagen and start Apple in Silicon Valley? If Bill Hewlett had gone to MIT instead of Stanford, would he have never have started Hewlett-Packard, Silicon Valley's first major venture? The answer, weirdly, might be yes. There's this case study about cardiologists that I think can help explain this. Cardiologists do this procedure called cardiac catheterization. Now, I'm not gonna pretend to know at all what that means or entails, even though I look like the guy you should point to on an airplane when they're looking for a doctor. That's only happened to me 14 times. If you get a heart attack in Buffalo, New York, there's a 23.6% chance that they will use cardiac catheterization on you. But in Boulder, Colorado, they'll use it 75.6% of the time. That's a huge difference. So economist David Molitor wanted to understand what happens when a cardiologist moves from Boulder, Colorado to Buffalo, New York. Surely the cardiologist would just continue to treat patients the way he had for years, right? Wrong. They started acting like Buffalo, New York cardiologists. They started using cardiac catheterization way less often. And it doesn't happen over the course of months or years. It doesn't happen after they're told strictly what kind of policies to follow. It happens almost entirely by itself overnight. There's something weird about locations. I found this case study in Malcolm Gladwell's new book, Revenge of the Tipping Point, and it was absolutely fascinating in helping us to answer this question. And before you say Malcolm Gladwell isn't a real academic, look at his hair. Now look at Einstein's hair. Yeah, I bet you feel fucking stupid now. During the Vietnam War, a crazy thing happened. Countless American servicemen in Vietnam were severely addicted to heroin. And this was making lawmakers in Washington go crazy, trying to figure out how to reintegrate all these service people when they would come back to the country and struggle to reintegrate with their families or in the workforce. Except it turned out this crisis never even happened. It's like the servicemen forgot about their heroin addiction when they came back home. Only 5% relapsed. So if highly trained cardiologists and addicts to one of the most addictive substances in the world completely change their behavior subconsciously when they change their location, then what does it say about the rest of us? There's just something weird about locations. This is called small area variation, and we see all the time specific behaviors clustering up. Like in Vermont, there's some towns where everyone gets their tonsils removed, but the town over, nobody does. Miami has the highest rate of Medicare fraud, but you can commit Medicare fraud anywhere. Memphis, Tennessee has the highest rate of going bankrupt, but you can go bankrupt anywhere. For some reason, specific behaviors tend to cluster up in specific locations. These clusters of behavior seemingly pop up out of nowhere, and as new people come in, they integrate without knowing. But it's nearly impossible to create one of these behavior clusters inorganically. Consider Dublin. We made a whole video investigating if Ireland is actually the world's wealthiest country. They offer a bunch of different kinds of tax loopholes to attract the world's biggest tech companies to open their European offices in Dublin. Meta, Apple, Amazon, Salesforce, they're all there. And yet, Dublin doesn't even rank in Europe's top 10 for new startup formations because somehow attracting the companies and its people is not enough. But forget Dublin. What luck does Dublin or Boston or Moscow or Dubai have in becoming the next Silicon Valley if East Palo Alto, a town that is in Silicon Valley, can't make some of that magic happen for itself? East Palo Alto is unusually poor for being in one of the richest areas in the world. Its average life expectancy is 62 years old. The neighborhood literally right over, Menlo Park, has an average life expectancy of 78 years. There's something about Menlo Park where major tech companies like A16Z and Meta are based, where the magic stops at an invisible border before it gets to East Palo Alto. One of the reasons is that East Palo Alto, for years, was victim to racist redlining laws that made it almost impossible for companies to move there or hire people there. And now, even though those policies have officially ended, it seems companies unknowingly are continuing that behavior. That culture, or the lack of it, has persisted in East Palo Alto. Because something that started with policies has now continued because it's become a behavior cluster, or the lack thereof. And this is, of course, extremely disappointing for the people who live there. Almost as disappointing as the time I used to work at Apple. Here at Apple, I'm so excited to announce our latest product. Fuck You. Fuck You comes in 3 incredibly sleek colors. Steve Jobs died, and every year we dance on his grave. Location inequality stems from the fact that it's nearly impossible to create these behavior clusters inorganically, and these behavior clusters somewhat explain the success that New York and Silicon Valley have. San Francisco's ultra-lefty hipsters and Patagonia-vested VCs might seem like they're opposites, they might even seem like they hate each other, but they're both brought to Silicon Valley by a shared vision of rejecting the status quo and proposing ideas that seem insane to the rest of the country. And the lesson for local lawmakers might be to stop trying to spend billions of dollars to force a tech or finance hub into existence, even though it might seem sexy, and instead double down on the economic advantages that a community already has. For example, in the 1500s, Switzerland banned all types of jewelry except for watches because of a movement at the time called Calvinism. This resulted in all of the Swiss craftsmanship being focused onto watches. For centuries, the Swiss government always avoided getting caught up in the economic fad of the day, colonialism, manufacturing, or now tech. Instead, they focused on cultivating this local watch industry. They created a conglomerate called Swatch Group to stabilize the industry when it was in crisis. Today, the Swiss watch industry produces $32 billion for the country every single year. Look, small area variation and the clustering of behavior doesn't explain everything, but it's a fascinating case study as to why it's so hard to solve location inequality. But now we can better understand why it's so hard to replicate the success of a New York and Silicon Valley elsewhere. There's just something weird about locations. Food for thought.